Welcome everyone back to Pommy and Oz. Hope we're all doing really well. If you're new around here, make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe. It does mean a world to me. It does, even though I'm a little bit miserable today. But welcome to the show. Hope we're all doing really well. I hope your weekend is treating you well. What's left of it? I've just literally procrastinated for 3 hours just staring at my desk and at this camera without it being switched on. This show could have been just me sat in silence for fucking 3 hours and then speak now. I've watched the game 3 times, including the live. And it's a tough watch. It really is a tough watch. And there's lots to unpack here, I think. I'm feeling it this week. And I don't often do. But that game was very poor. It was everything that kind of goes wrong in Carlton in a microcosm, exponentially really highlighted, particularly the opening term 0-8, really showcasing Carlton's ability to get it there and be so close but not finish it off. 3 of them were spoilt and were rushed behinds, obviously, but I mean, you are in the position to kick goals. It was very wasteful there. There was options there where maybe there was better options, making sure. I don't want to single individual players out because the Motlop miss, the Harry miss, they happen, but it's really infectious and it's really, really entertaining at times. And I say this kind of like in a sadistic, warped way. How things are just infectious with the Blues. Missing, it's infectious. Tackle pressure, when it's high, it's high. Slip tackles, once one person misses a tackle, it's contagious. It's like literally a microcosm of everything that goes wrong. When it goes wrong, it just goes wrong. And this week, we really did talk about in the preview that it's become a pattern with Carlton that if you put a lot of forward pressure on them, you negate and slow down their ball movement, you play that extra around stoppage, eventually it kind of folds. I don't know if any of you had nanas who made souffle. Souffle, they rise, and my nana's biggest disappointment in life, probably outside of me getting suspended for getting into a punch on once, was probably the souffles not rising, which, I mean, I can only help one of them. Shouldn't have punched the kid, but, I mean, there you go. But it's kind of like that. It's either it rises or it implodes, and when it does, if you ever watch a souffle rise, kind of does it nice. It's real linear, and when it kind of goes quickly. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't kind of go, I don't know what I'm doing here. It kind of just puffs like that, poof. And that's kind of what happens with Carlton's game plan. And it's really interesting that, the last 8 weeks particularly, there's been a 10-minute spurt at the end of the game where it's kind of all or nothing. And you watch this game, just with the ease of which Collingwood executed their game plan, I kind of think Mason Cox is a great personification of what it is to be a Collingwood player. One, we all fucking hate him, but why do we? Look at how invested he is in the Collingwood way. Do you know what I mean? This is a guy that grew up in Texas, didn't know what footy is, and within a short space of time, he is Collingwood through and through. He gets it. He really does care. And I'm not saying the boys don't care. No doubt they do. But there's just that extra 5% in Mason Cox that he's playing out and he feels it. He feels the gravitas of the situation. And when we go into the numbers, and this was another stickler point for me, I didn't want to do the numbers. I genuinely couldn't be arsed. And I had to force myself, because I owe it to you, the fans, that we go through it the way we always do. Just because I'm feeling down and a bit biscuit-arsed doesn't mean that I should half-arse it. And it's a real pattern here that's emerging that I hope I'm wrong, because you know me, I'm positive and I try and look at it. But the one thing that is unforgivable to me is here. Because you control this. You control this. You have 1,000% responsibility for what goes on in here. Right? That we seem to get close to a goal. But then the pressure gets a bit too much and we've got to take 2 steps back. You know the song? We take 3 steps forward and 2 steps back. Because opposites attract. You know Paula Abdul? Everyone's first crush. It was mine. It feels like that's what we do. It feels like we get it. And you can kind of see that. We kind of were we were kind of the rooster in the hen's nest when we were second. We were out of place. We shouldn't be here. But then it dawned on us, hang about, maybe the aim is to have a home final. Fucking hell, we could win this. And then we take a couple of steps back. It was like the 8-2 a couple of years ago in Vosses. Oh, this is good, isn't it? Oh, shit, we're now a finals side. Implosion. And then you had the next year where Carlton imploded mid-season and then flew away. It's like the chips are down. And that comes down to intrinsic motivation. And it felt like we were off the ball. And it has done for like 6 weeks, in my opinion. That we're kind of clinging on to the game, not reacting positively. We're waiting for the opposition. And you see it, like how we sit back, how the ball movement. People keep complaining about the wing. That is a methodology, but you are trying to hit the corridor. I watched the game third time and I literally played it on 1 speed, like less 0.5 speed. Every time we had the ball in the D50, that middle portion of the ground is static. No one is leading. And then you watch Collingwood, there is manic runs, sometimes from centre half forward, 70-metre leads to try and give the corridor option, the short option. And the Blues try and build it up. They go short to Boyd, McGovern. But we're waiting for that intersect lead and it's not there. And it is really off the boil. I mean, this is intrinsic motivation. This is heart. This is soul. This is desire. This is putting your head over the ball. This is making it happen. And it feels really kind of wishy-washy at the times. It's the best way I can describe it. Feels like it's 90% commitment. Feels there's a lot of fear. When you watch it, especially on the third rewatch, you could see the overhand balls, the overuse of the ball. It's really, really slow. And the players have to cop a lot of blame. I also think Vossi, in some of his positional changes, he's hanging them out to dry as well. And I don't quite get the purpose, because for me, the quickest way to get out of this forward press is run out. We talked about the 3-5-2 system. One of the methods is run through it. You've got Sard and Chinkota, 2 of the fastest players in the AFL. But you're hitting them when they're slow and laconic and going backwards. You've got to overlap it. Some of the players turning their backs to play. The Boyd on Elliott. It's little basics here. And then you look at like the differences in certain players. Whittaker in his 4th quarter, willing to leave his man by 20 metres to back himself to get the ball. Where some of them were staying with their man and playing goal side because they were worried to make that mistake. The numbers will show this as well. We'll go into this in detail, but it's really disappointing and it has to change because time is running out. Do you know what I mean? Time is running out and we haven't got a lot of time to get it right. So let's get straight into it. So we'll look here, and this has been like, I wouldn't say a problem area. Well, I would do, I'm not going to lie to you. But you look at stoppages here, this has been an area where Carlton shouldn't be breaking even, but Collingwood aren't a tremendous stoppage side, as we discussed at the start, and they did their number. They wanted to break even at this, particularly if our turnover game was where it was. And we always say that it's all right breaking even if your turnover's dominant. But their game plan here was genuinely break even at the contest because they could back themselves elsewhere. And you look here, there's some real numbers here that really alarm me. That the 29 points from stoppage when they played the extra, and the Blues had this plan early doors. They tried to stop Maynard getting the run away from Cripps. They shelved that very quickly, and the lack of attention, we said in the preview, I'd love us to try and set a standard. And this was like a psychological tag for the Blues. Tag Scott Pendlebury, just make them ask the question. And Pendlebury and Nick Dacos had a riot, and I'm not too sure why we didn't have an official tag in this game. I'm not a big fan of the tag, I'm going to be totally open there, but if you are going to tag, fucking use it. And this was so easy for Collingwood. They took away this space, they took away the short handball, and that's where Carlton are at their best in stoppage. You go back and watch last week when we talked about round 13 onwards, one of the highest scores from stoppage in the history of the AFL, top 5. One of the best differentials. The methodology was the run and stun. Cripps breaks the first line, gets the handball. You've seen teams have cottoned onto that. They play the extra around the stoppage to stop that first wave. And Carlton are handballing it because they don't want to take the kick or take the game on in that area. And that's a real concern. And then that was when we saw the turnover. They flooded the midfield knowing that Carlton looked for that quick turnover from the midfield. And it worked impeccably for Collingwood. And the Blues there were looking for them short up kicks. And instead they went for the long bomb. And that's what happens. Carlton are always looking for that switch. You see it. There was that wonderful passage of play where Kemp switched it and Carlton scored from that defensive half. You see it in the midfield a lot as well. We look for that switch to the wing, back to the corridor. They take them short options away, and it's the running patterns die down. Everyone's kind of already ran inside 50, and it's like, oh, do I come backwards? Because then if it gets turned over, there's space for the opposition. And it's a real full committance. You've got to go in two-footed, and you look at the big change from 12 weeks ago to now. It was the runners, the overlap runners. It's not so much personnel now. It's that application, that desire. And you've got to ask yourself, you start to see that application desire in the fourth quarter. You saw it last week. You saw it against North as well. When the game is there to be won, they press the button. But it needs to be there from the first quarter. And the defensive half, this was a masterclass from Collingwood. Turnover and defensive half. We talked about put pressure in the forward half, in the defensive half of Carlton's ground. This is where the game would be won and lost. Negative 20 for 17 points to 21, negative 11. The forward pressure was okay from the Blues, but there was no other method. You saw Collingwood resort to other methods. Nick Dacos swinging at halfback. Jack Crisp having spurts through there. They tried to do everything they could to negate Carlton's forward pressure, and eventually Carlton started to sit back. Collingwood never did. They always stayed there, and they basically said to Carlton, kick over the press. Kick over it. And eventually, when the questions were asked, players stopped kicking that deep, and they went for the safe option. And they've got to look for that ball. Credit to Sard, who every time Sard gets the ball, he's looking for that short little chip kick and to run on. 9 times out of 10, Carlton stopped. In the second and third quarter, the amount of time Sard did that short kick streams past, and there isn't a handball. This is an area here that the Blues have got to start being a little bit more bold. You've got to be a little bit more dangerous. You've got to take the game on. And the forward half, as we know, Carlton have put a lot of time into this. It's all well and good. You've been 9, but the opposition were plus 20 here. They absolutely destroyed you. And this is where that mid-application of pressure has to be good so you get the turnover. And they stood off, particularly the exit when they went long down. Watch Collingwood. They committed lots of players. Carlton didn't. They spread their bets. They did, and the centre bounced, down by 7, down by 5. I always say Carlton should see this as a huge loss if they are not winning this area, and this was really poor. Peternet was woeful at times. I don't want to pick on him, but his second and third efforts did not help the midfield out, and at times the midfield just sat off, and they were waiting for the first handball before they applied the pressure. The work around the contest this last 2 weeks has probably been up there with some of the worst I've seen from Carlton. And that's desire, that's in here, that's the pressure. That's, I understand you've gone from being top 4 to potentially winning it, and now the tables have turned and everyone's on your case. But that's self-preservation. You've got to get through that. You've got to fight through it. And they are more than capable. They are a capable side. There is no doubt at the moment the application is genuinely behind the 8 ball. When you look at it around the ground, the pressure's down from Collingwood because they pressured in certain areas. This isn't because we were smarter. They pressured in areas. They waited for it to go out wide. They took away the corridor and made it a 50-50 kick. And they applied the pressure when the ball hit the deck, and they did it incredibly well. When you look at the tackles here from the Blues, really, really poor. They didn't want to be first to ball. They were always looking for that handball. They were always conscious of where's the next play coming, and they weren't attacking in numbers, but they weren't defending in numbers. This team defence at times in the fourth quarter was basically Whittaker on his own. And that is an area here that has really gone off the boil in the last 4 weeks. We've talked about it a lot. And the bottom statistic is the one that scares me. If you're playing the territory game, your tackles and pressure should be through the roof. But a lot of these were clearing kicks to buy ourselves time to reset up. We were setting up as if we were a ball-playing side, short, sharp kicking. And that was how we were defending transition. And that is why our turnover this week, defensively, not often do you see teams match us because we were one of the best defending sides in the league from turnover. It's kind of gone back to what it was 2 years ago, where we're kind of preparing for the turnover as opposed to saying now we're going to back ourselves in. It was a real performance here, even statistically showing you that It was second to the ball. The endeavour didn't quite match the application, and at times the tackles inside 50 for it to break even, to not have so much long kicks against you is a real worry. And it's a workability issue, a real workability issue. And I'm tired of hearing the excuses. They're tired, it's been a long season. Of course they're fucking tired. Professional sport is hard. It's like life. It's a big, big microcosm of life. And to win the territory battle like that by 500 and to lose the tackle battle by such a big way is a real shame. It's a real shame because a bit of pressure, a little bit of desire, that turns round. You look at the arcs here, and this is really telling. The marks inside 50 rate, Carlton's willingness to get rid of the ball so quickly after about 8 handballs and just bomb it into shallow areas. And we talked about the zonal defence of Collingwood. They don't protect the shallow areas because it's such a low percentile play. You saw it with Carlton's behinds. You saw it with the marks inside 50. To have Charlie and Harry and to be down 5%, I don't think 21% is anywhere near the level with these boys as well. Anywhere near the level of these boys. It's the same with the centre bounces. You should be dominating that facet because everything is favouring you. The shallow kicks are absolutely killing us at the minute. Really killing us. And teams are offering it up because they know Carlton will see it and spend it early. And goes inside 50 down by 10%. Collingwood just played their game in the last 5 games. And the scores inside 50, they really hurt. Because when you've got that forward pressure that Carlton did, when it's all coming from turnover as opposed to being organic, you've got an issue. It feels like even the fans, hopefully Fremantle will lose, hopefully GWS will lose, hopefully we beat Hawthorn. Everything is reliant on what the others do. Even these stats, you are relying on the opposition to fail when you're meant to be the A side. And what we saw 12 weeks ago particularly was Carlton instill their brand on the opposition. No ifs, buts, maybes. And at the moment we're reacting and hoping you make a mistake. And until we go back to that big nut up and shut up, we're always going to be behind the 8 ball chasing tail. And the rebound 50 rate, just long kicks out. Like before, when we were loving this stat, it was so positive with our ability to score from the defensive half. When your rebound 50 rate is so high with your defensive half scores being so low, it's saying it's just kicking hope. And hope has never won anything. Hope is merely the starter of the main meal of fucking success. Has to start with hope, but if you get hope and a bigger portion of it for your main meal and not results, that's a big problem. The application in this area needs to be bold. Needs to be fearless. The intercept marks, as you would expect, shallow entries. It was just a dream to play Carlton. Darcy Moore, Frampton, they would have loved that. And not losing a one-on-one is the one that kills you because Collingwood knew that Carlton would protect their tall targets pretty well. It was feeding them out. And how often do you see that? That short kick from 55, Carlton stopped moving. They wanted to play goal side of their man, right? Which then protects you from the one-on-one because then you've got 2-on-1 so it don't become a one-on-one because everyone's clogged in. No one was willing to get in front of their defender, say, this is my 50. Only Whittaker did, and Whittaker did that in the 4th. And you look at the 4th, how we defended in the midfield was exceptional because Jacob Whittaker was like, I'm attacking that ball's mine, it's got my name on it. You stand back, boys, I'll do it. And not one person wanted to go, fucking hell, Whittaker's up and about. I'm going to go and attack that ball. I'm going to attack it. And Kemp deserves a bit of praise here because he was one of the few at times when it was under the cosh. Did come off his man. He got caught out a few times. But you know what? That needs to be across the board. 18 players. I'm coming off my man. That's my ball. And it was always second to the ball, even in the defensive setup. And this is the worry here. The contested possessions aside, so big and burly like us, not willing to take the contact and get a bit of run and stun. And you saw that there with the metres gained per disposal down by 0.2 to win territory so much when your ball movement hasn't really changed. You can see the pressure and the application has changed. And it's really disappointing, man. It's really disappointing because they aren't a bad side. But at the moment, it just feels like the heart has gone a little bit. The heart and soul has gone. And it's in there. And we're going to cheer them home and we're going to celebrate. And I want to be positive and I want to tell everyone it's going to be all right. But right now, this is the biggest battle. Do you know what I mean? Biggest battle. Biggest battle is up here. Because that's what's holding them back. There's a fear. There's an unwillingness to make a mistake. And it's safe. And we've really started to hem back. And you've seen it. When we do the rating shows, we talked about the lines getting further and further back. And it's becoming more of a clear out. Kind of protect ourselves. Versus that bold and industrious approach. I didn't like what Voss said in the press conference. I agree there were stages that you saw it. Particularly in the fourth, our brand and identity. But it shouldn't come out as a fail-safe. That should be there all the time. That is our brand and identity. That C monogram in 2024 stands for that hard work, perseverance, second, third, fourth efforts, and a willingness to be selfless and put ourselves on the line to win it. And we have to go back to that DNA. We haven't got a lot of time to mull about it. It's a simple fix. It's a simple fix, right? Get there, play the game, play it your way, fuck the rest. Now it's all on the line. Every game now, we're going to be probably 8th by the end of this round, is really at the end. At the end. And it's a big opportunity for these boys. That's how they should see it. This isn't a negative. This is an opportunity. Now has presented itself. You've ballsed it up a little bit. The opportunity presents itself to right it. And righting wrongs is the secret of everything that we do as a human race. Go Blues. I love you all. Look after yourself. Peace, love and light. Pom out.